At the most basic understanding, practicing piano is learning what notes to play and to repeat until it becomes easier and easier. Further understanding will look at how you play those notes to make the sound that you intended. A more evolved understanding will take a look at why the composer wanted you to play those notes to begin with. But the most important questions in practicing that is valid for every level of understanding and almost always got overlooked are who is playing and where are you playing from? Welcome back to Joy of Practicing. I'm your host, Ferdi Talan. There aren't many literatures out there that describes what goes on in the different faculties of a pianist when they are practicing. Maybe because it is not easy to verbalize and the representation is very personal and subjectively different for every individual. That's why I think practicing is very sacred, because you are spending personal time in a dialogue with yourself and your aspirations, which in effect brings you face to face with your limits at the time. What can you do? What will you do? And how will you do it? This is precisely why you cannot lie to yourself in the practice room. The instrument won't allow you to anyway. The sound that you produce corresponds directly with how you treat the instrument. My teacher's brightest guiding principle is that you play who you are. How you play the instrument is how you do life. And you can only win in the practice room and in life when you're honest with yourself. Sure, not everyone aspires to be a concert pianist. I get that the level of finishes is going to be different for each and every one of us. Despite that, firstly, we must be willing to admit when there's a problem, where things are uncomfortable. Playing the piano should not feel like a workout. It should feel almost like you're doing nothing, having the most fun producing different variety of beautiful and appropriate sound that hypnotizes you. And if that passage doesn't feel yummy yet, that means you're still compensating somewhere for it. It has not become organic. And this is one of the pillars of practicing, identifying these places and working it through. If we take a look at this Alberti bass, most people are going to panic. It's because it's not your usual format of an Alberti bass, but this will stretch you out because it goes a tenth, sixth. What you need to do is, I need to understand what is the end result. If you just take a look at the distances between the notes, then yeah, it is panic inducing. But if you simplify it, right, you have pretty much the structure and the skeleton of this passage. You have the melody and the bass. This is the melody and this thing it's just pretty much, it tells you the harmony, but it's not the main characters in this passage. So you don't want this sound anywhere. That's too much. You won't be able to discern anything in the end that way. So if there are two voices, and I'm trying to play that on one hand, that means I need to figure out the timing for these hands. So my bass, next note is the G, but it doesn't correspond to this. This is another voice. So I have to connect where am I going from the E to the F sharp? And how am I going to do that? See, if I do, then I'm stuck here. I cannot move anywhere. Then that's pretty much what's going to give me problems. Right? So if I have that, what I just did is I just grouped it. And I'm sure that you've heard about grouping before, and you'll continuously hear about grouping as we continue, because this it's much easier to play than okay. Now after I group it, and so my hand is not spreading like that, I can close my go and figure out the timing, like of what when do I need to be on my next note. In the very beginning, I needed to do this many times. And even that, at the very beginning, I do. This gives me of an outline of what I wanted to hear, what I'm working towards. And this is actually what I do in the practice room. I work towards that. And the tendency, it's a pity that I cannot do it anymore badly now that I have worked it out. And this is actually a testament that if you do truly have worked something out, you can't go back to the way that things were, because your body is actually very intelligent, and once you inform it of how to do things efficiently and effectively, it will never want to go back to the way that it was before, with a lot of struggle and effort. So just making myself hear this outline, and then fast forward X amount of weeks, let's just say, I tried this. To figure out the balance, right? And then fast forward again like a couple more weeks, then I get into grouping them. At first I grouped it this way. Which is good until a certain point, but the tendency is that the key, just gonna tell you the key right now, is that you never really go into full thumb. This is not the center of your movement. It's actually here. The tendency is to go, but if you do this, you'll get stuck on your pinky, trust me. So that's the gist of what you do in the practice room. It's really not to frustrate yourself. It's really more about problem solving with the tools that you have at that given time. Needless to say, what you truly need to quantify is your interpersonal relationship. Practicing is learning to become a better problem solver. But for improvements to really take place, first we need humility to admit our shortcomings and courage to muddle through the problems. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.